Greetings, friends. I am Vitaly Portnikov. Yuri Ushakov, the assistant to the President of the Russian Federation on foreign policy, recalled that he was a participant in the recent negotiations between Putin, the U.S. President's Special Representative Steve Witkoff, and President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Ushakov emphasized that Kushner could be the author of the final version of the peace plan intended to lead to the end of the Russo-Ukrainian War. He noted that Kushner proved to be very useful during the negotiations with Witkoff because he brought a sense of structure to them, a signal to Washington. Thus, the Americans received a fairly obvious signal from the Kremlin. The Kremlin now considers Kushner the primary negotiator capable of reaching an agreement with Putin regarding the end of the Russo-Ukrainian War. At first glance, this seems like a strange decision. After all, Putin managed to establish a rapport with Witkoff, which was visible even during the protocol footage of the Russian president with the former realtor and longtime friend of Trump. Putin obviously appeals to Witkoff, who does not hide his sympathy for the Russian dictator. Witkoff is not even shy about advising Ushakov on how to handle President Trump to secure the most beneficial results for the Russian Federation ahead of the Ukrainian president's visit, as revealed by a phone conversation published by Bloomberg. The Kremlin's tactic. However, as we can see, it is Kushner, not Witkoff, who has piqued the Kremlin's interest. This is a typical tactic of the Russian intelligence services that have been ruling Russia for several decades. Moscow is well aware that the president's son-in-law is not just a best friend, but a person who enjoys Donald Trump's unconditional trust. After all, Kushner was a key figure in peace negotiations in the Middle East. Moreover, his financial interests became apparent during the finalization of ceasefire options between Israel and the terrorist organization Hamas. As is known, countries like Qatar were active participants in these talks, and investment from these nations into funds linked to Kushner may have served as significant leverage regarding how Israel should conduct itself concerning peace agreements. Two birds with one stone. Now, the Kremlin can solve two problems at once. Entice Kushner with financial proposals. Why else was the institution headed by Kirill Dmitriev created precisely when Moscow decided to stall negotiations with the Americans? Demonstrate a specific interest in contacts with the Trump family. Since the current U.S. president evidently views his presidency as a family business, such an approach would likely appeal to him. The reality of peace talks. But here arises another equally important question. To what extent can Jared Kushner actually secure real concessions from Putin and other Russian leaders regarding the end of the Russo-Ukrainian War? We must state immediately and without illusion that Kushner's efficiency rating here is equal to Witkoff's. 0. Every American official, or even member of Donald Trump's family, is being used by the Russian leadership to stall for time and prolong the Russo-Ukrainian War. There may simply be hopes that time can be stalled more effectively with President Trump's son-in-law than with his friend, because Trump will trust his son-in-law more. When Kushner convinces the U.S. president that Putin is seeking ways to end the war and accompanies these efforts with generous financial offers to the president's family, it may incline Trump toward optimistic forecasts regarding the war's conclusion. You must understand that Trump isn't making these optimistic forecasts for no reason. They are based on unrealistic expectations and the calculated professional work of Russian intelligence services, which condition the American president to believe in his own hopes. The dialogue with his son-in-law is intended to help Putin continue this line. Putin's strategic goal. The main error here is that Trump constantly retreats from his own idea of achieving a ceasefire on the Russo-Ukrainian front. When he sees that Putin obviously has no intention of ending the war, he returns to this idea for a short period, but then abandons it again. For Putin, the main goal is to use Kushner so that Trump completely forgets about a ceasefire and becomes a participant in a multi-year peace process. That is, negotiations against the backdrop of war and the destruction of Ukraine. Putin's strategic idea is to drag out this negotiation process until Trump's political career ends. That is, until January 2029. During this time, the Russian president hopes to destroy our state, if not through military success, then through missile bombardments and drone strikes. Help far-right and far-left populist parties come to power in Europe. Make it very difficult for the next American president to rectify Trump's mistakes. By that time, the United States may definitively lose its reputation as a world leader in favor of the People's Republic of China and the Russian Federation as its loyal satellite. Conclusion. This is Putin's global plan. It is not a story about ending the Russo-Ukrainian War. No one in the Kremlin has ever thought about that. This is a story about how to exploit President Trump's family relationships to win the geopolitical struggle with the West that Putin began several decades ago. And, specifically, to win largely due to the incompetence and foolishness of those he is fighting. Thank you, friends. Stay on this channel, subscribe to it, subscribe to my social networks, and to the Patreon channel, which helps develop these resources. Victory and peace to you. Good luck.